It's Dr. Caitlin here with Dr. Mindy and Dr. Sonia, and we're talking about a topic because a certain season is coming into play now, and everybody seems to know the flu season better than any other season, it seems. It's a hot topic all the time, and so what we're going to talk to you guys about is what do we do to avoid the flu? What are some of the things that we tell our patients to do so that you're not missing work, your kids aren't missing school, you're not miserable, and it doesn't stay and last for weeks on end. So, Dr. Mindy, Dr. Sonia, who would like to start with why do we have the flu season in the first place? Like, what is the deal with this quote unquote flu season?
Well, one
Oh my
thing I
God.
think that happens is there's a huge change in routine, right? Having young kids in my household, they are bringing home everything and anything from all the kids around them. So it usually cycles through the family. And I hear that a lot from a lot of moms, that as soon as school starts, routine has changed, they're coming home with a lot of different bugs. So this really is the best time to start talking about what we can do to prevent this season that we call flu season. What about you, Dr. Mindy? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of laughing at that question because I think that we've been pre-programmed to think it's flu season, and we've been so instilled into us to get a flu shot in the fall, that the flu is coming, and we now know. I mean, even the research lately coming out on the mind-body connection is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I just think, I don't think there's a flu season. I do not think there is necessarily a specific reason. I do agree routine changes. I do agree more people around you are sick, but I think we're more powerful than that. We have way more control than we realize when it comes to the flu. Don't you think, Dr. Caitlin?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I think that there's a whole bunch of factors that play into this quote unquote flu season because I don't know about you guys, but I still have people and I hear people that get sick with the flu during the summer months. And so,
Yeah, right.
it
Well,
can
that's why I did the
happen
quotations with the season. I'm like, it's not a
Right.
season. It's all year round. If your microbiome, if your vitality, if all of that is off throughout the year, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, you're still going to get sick.
And you know what? It's such an interesting point because if you think about it, if somebody gets sick in the summer, you will hear them say, it's so odd. I got the cold. I must have a summer cold, but how weird that I would get it. Yeah, or weird that I would get a cold in the summer. And then immediately your brain goes into, this must not be normal. I've got to fight it. Whereas in the flu season, we have a lot more expectation that it's just normal to get the flu. And so it's the brain doesn't try to fight it as much. It's like, it's just accepts it. And I think we halfway create it. I mean, I really think that there is a mental piece to this. I will tell you that I am so clear that if I get any kind of sniffling, I have a mantra that I always say to myself, or a sore throat, and I just say, oh, I never get the flu. I never get it. And and I keep reminding myself how powerful my immune system is, and it really works.
Yeah, I usually, instead of never, I'll say something like, oh, I'm super healthy. This will pass. Like, I'll wake up tomorrow and feel awesome. And the whole negative connotation, with the universe, law of attraction, that kind of thing, it doesn't hear can't, don't. It'll give you whatever you want. So I just, and that's a great way to bring it up, how our brain controls what we feel and how we express ourselves. So
Yeah, absolutely.
is there anything that you do?
Yeah, I was going to say with the kids, every night before bed, their mantra is, I'm strong and healthy. So we're trying to instill that in them already. If you keep, telling yourself you're strong and healthy, no matter what's going on, you're not going to, become victim to it or give into the seasonal flu that's coming and feel fearful of it too. 'Cause I think it creates a lot of fear when we're going into this season coming up and transition from summer. A lot of people are fearful of the flu, of getting sick, and then just that in itself, that fear will begin to manifest it into our space. And it's that mind-body connection again.
I don't know about you guys, but I honestly haven't had the flu in like 10 years, 10 plus
No,
years.
me neither.
No, it's probably been like 14 years. And I think it was chiropractic school when I was studying for boards at the same time, and I had finals at the same time. And it knocked me on my butt, but I haven't been sick since. So
I had it with my second after having my second, and I was nursing and not sleeping, and my little niece came over to visit, and she had hand, foot, mouth, and so I didn't get that, but I got a full-on flu, and my immune system. But again, because my terrain, my vitality, my my adrenals were shot. There was so much going on at that time, so I was susceptible to whatever was in my environment. If she were around me now with the same, my body wouldn't respond the same way because I've strengthened my immune system.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And what I think a lot of the advice that we want to give today is about what you can do to strengthen your immunity when you know that you may have been exposed and yet and you are expressing symptoms. I think that's pretty important, because what I always tell people is that your goal with not getting the flu is not being a good host. Just don't be a good host. How do you create a body that's not a good host? So I think it'd be awesome. Let's go through, like, you know me, I love checklists. Like, what kind of lists can we give people of things that they need to do to look at not being a good host?
Yeah, so there's some basic things like sleep, right? Getting to bed on time and waking up at the same time. So creating that routine in the body. So sleep, I think, is huge. Fasting, we've talked a lot about that in a lot of our episodes. So making sure that's still part of the routine. Your diet, making sure the microbiome, there's variation in that. And I know we're going to be talking about homeopathic prophylaxis. So these are things that we can do preventatively, whether it's homeopathics or herbs, vitamins that we're taking to support the body. So there's, quite a few things that we can do that we have control over.
Yeah, I think on top of that is trying to reduce our stress, because when we're stressed out and we're eating bad food, like lots of sugary stuff, because think about it too, come the fall, the end of October, this is when all of the holiday season kicks in. There's Halloween, so there's Halloween candy, and then it starts a little bit before that in Canada with Thanksgiving starting, middle of October, and then there's American Thanksgiving at the end of November, and then there's Christmas and then New Year's. And so it's just sugary treat, celebration, lots of alcohol. And that definitely suppresses immune system. So making sure that you are eating less sugar, eating healthier foods is definitely going to help give you a better environment for you to fight off the flu and avoid getting it in the first place.
Yeah, I would agree. Sugar is like number one. Sugar has to be at the top of the list. If you're eating a sugary diet and you're stressed and you're not sleeping, you're going to get the flu. I mean, really,
Perfect storm.
Yeah. So, starting off by looking at your diet, minimizing sugar. I think minimizing stress is important, but I don't know about you guys. Sometimes stress just comes in waves and you have no control. You can only change your perception to it. And I think everybody, hopefully lots of people are working on that. I think sleep is also really important, but what about the people who have heavy metals and aren't sleeping very well? Or women that have hormonal problems that would love to sleep, but they can't. So, in that interim, while they're fixing those root causes to get those things back on track, I'd love you guys to talk a little more about HP, because I know you know a lot about that. I'll tell you, I think the greatest immune boost on the planet is the chiropractic adjustment. There are studies showing that right after an adjustment, your immune system increases by 200%. Your white blood cell count goes up, your CD4, your T helper. They can actually see a rise in those immediately following an adjustment. So with my kids, I mean, my daughter's 18, my son will be 16 tomorrow. That has been our first line of defense always, is you're not feeling well, get on the adjusting table. And I can't tell you how many times that is turned to cold immediately.
I think that's a good point to make, just with movement. So I'm obviously going to bring in yoga to this scenario because, like chiropractic adjustment, it's working on the spine. It's working on,
Mhm.
moving that cerebrospinal fluid and creating movement. So we are actually giving more tools to our white blood cells so they can get rid of the rest. But I think what happens is when somebody gets sick or they feel like they're getting sick, immediately they're on the couch, right? Trying to rest, which, yes, we need some rest, but there's also some like conscious movement that the body needs to do in order to move these things out. So with the chiropractic adjustment, I would say do some yoga.
Yeah. Maybe if you do yoga before the adjustment, get
Mm-hmm.
adjusted, and then do yoga after. You could do like a couple sun salutations on either
There
end.
you go.
I like
Yeah.
it. I like it. It's awesome. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of things that we I don't know if you guys want to dive into like supplements. I've got some go-to supplements that we absolutely love. In fact, I just got a text from my daughter this morning asking for the 3 supplements that we use all the time when the kids even show a sign of a cold, and she's off in college. And I got this. Hey, can you send me this, this, and this? So one of the supplements we use is Lauracidin. Do you guys use Lauracidin?
No, I don't.
Yep,
Caitlin,
I've used it in the past.
Yeah, so it's a plant-based monolaurin, and monolaurin is the component of breast milk that is the immune component. So it's antifungal, antiviral, and antibacterial. We can put a link in there to where you get it. And it's they're little pellets. You put them in your hand, and you basically take. I have my kids we take it like 3 times a day when we first feel a cold. And if you take it at the beginning when you first feel it, it like immediately, I mean, it really helps to catch it at the beginning. If you're full on in a cold, it's not as effective. But that's one of the ones that we as like our go-to in our family.
Well, maybe we can talk about those stages then. Like, what can we take for prevention, and what can we take as soon as we have, signs of something going on, and then what do you take when you're like fully in it, so that there's like a clear picture of some of the different things that we can do. So maybe Dr. Caitlin, you can kind of start with the preventative with HP, and kind of defining what that is and what we can do on that side of things.
Yeah, so HP is homeoprophylaxis, and what it is it's a homeopathy version, and I don't want to compare it to a vaccine because it's not, it doesn't replace a vaccine. They're actually totally different. But the purpose behind HP is to actually trigger your immune system so that it can recognize the flu and fight it off versus giving it to you. So, Dr. Sonia, you can correct me because you know a little bit more about this than I am. I'm brand new to this. I've totally enthralled by it. I think it's so fascinating how it works. But there are these little pellets that have been given the frequency of whatever disease or infection or illness or whatever it is. But there's no actual component in and of itself. I don't know if I'm making sense now. Dr. Sonia, you want to chime in here?
So with homeopathy, as if you've listened to our Homeopathy 101, it kind of describes how homeopathy works. You're basically, you have sugar pellets, and you first have that initial plant or that flu frequency, and you're breaking it down to the point where you're succussing it so far where all you're left with is the vibration of that influenza or that virus, or the plant or the remedies, whatever it is that you're going to be taking, and then that gets implemented into these pellets. So just like how the science behind vaccine, what they're wanting to do is introduce a certain virus into your body so your body creates its own antibodies and defenses against it. The way homeopathy works, it's doing that, but it's doing it in this safe way where you're using these pellets to introduce this virus, but it's frequency, because we are frequency. We are, energy, so it's using that energy. And the philosophy behind homeopathy is like cures like. So if you give the body that frequency, it's going to create this immune response to match that frequency. So if that actual virus is to come into your body, you've already created that frequency to fight it off. So that's why you can take that preventatively. And then there's also some that you can take right when the flu is coming on. So there's ones that I used to give to my kids as infants, especially because the sugar pellets, easy to take. You can dissolve them in water. You can put them in their little belly buttons when they're like really small, because again, it's all frequency and energy. And there's one called influenzinum and another one called cocciclosinum. And essentially you take these pellets, and what it does, it's creating that frequency so that it's creating more protection against the viruses that are coming in. So hopefully that gives it a bit of a clear picture of what homeopathy does in a nutshell.
Good job. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was impressive.
Well, after studying it for 4 years, I have to have some sort of summary.
Yeah.
So why did you throw me into explaining it? Come on here. Yeah.
You did a great job.
No, I love the idea behind it though, because I've never taken it before. I've actually never had a flu shot. And there's multiple reasons why I've never had a flu shot. Part of it is because almost every person that I know that has gotten the flu shot has gotten the flu. And so for me, that just doesn't make sense. That seems so silly. But I love the idea of, well, you know, Dr. Sonia, maybe you can answer this question, because I'm sure all of our listeners might be thinking this. Can HP cause the individual to develop like flu-like symptoms from taking it?
They can. So when we're doing the like cures, there's also something called return of old symptoms, and it's going to give you that frequency of the virus or the remedy that we're trying to heal. So sometimes people will feel a bit fluish, but you're not going to get it to the extent of what you would if you were to actually get the flu. So you might maybe have a sniffly nose or whatever it is. I also think we shouldn't be afraid of the flu. I think there's a lot of fear around getting symptoms, because then we have to take time off work, we have to sit down, not do anything. So even with these, herbal remedies and these homeopathic remedies, things can still show up, but what we're doing is we're teaching the body now. We're telling it that it's okay, that I got you covered. I've set up an environment where we're going to heal this, so maybe I need to rest for a day or two, but we're going to heal it instead of trying to suppress the symptoms that are coming on.
I think that's such a good point. But when my kids were little, when people would call up and they say, we can't, little Johnny can't come over and play today because they've got a runny nose. I was like, my response always was, I'm not a germaphobe. I'm totally fine. Come on over. And people would think I was crazy. But I knew that the more bacteria and viruses that my kids got exposed to, the stronger their immune systems would be. And I was trying to run from that, and I had tools at home to help if they started to exhibit some symptoms. So I think that's a brilliant, brilliant point, Dr. Sonia. And I think if we could all reframe how we look at this, we would all build stronger immune systems.
Yeah, and I think what you said is key about having those tools, so then the fear isn't there, and that's what we're trying to do with this episode, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that I absolutely loved reading about HP is they've done multiple studies on different groups. So like fully vaccinated, not vaccinated at all, and also individuals who weren't vaccinated but given HP. And it turns out that the healthiest bunch was the ones that took the HP, because their immune system was just stronger. They were able to fight things off. And so when I read that, I was like,
interesting.
Maybe I'll take HP then for the influenza this year and see what happens, because it's not like I get it and I'm not scared of getting the flu, but heck, if I can do something to make my immune system stronger, I'm all for it. So, myself and Niles, we're going to end up taking it this year and see what happens. So I'll keep you guys posted if I notice it.
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah, and there's some practitioners too, because I think there's also that culture around the flu shot, but there's actually some companies that make liquid forms of some of the homeopathics. Like there's a company called Pasco, and they have remedies like Pascolucin, and you can mix in some adrenal remedies and some B12, and you can actually get the shot, and that also boosts up your immune system too. And that's obviously some adults and older kids, but for infants, the HP is amazing. And like I said, they're sugar pellets, so they're really easy to deliver. they ask for them. If my kids get a cough, there's a specific remedy called Spongia for that barking cough. Right away, they're like, "Can we have this?" Because they know it tastes like sugar.
Yeah, that's funny.
What about
They're like, "Ooh, treat."
That's
what about this?
That reminds me of the gummy vitamins we used to buy, you know, where they were like, "Oh, I want another gummy vitamin," and then I realized, "Oh, wait, this is not good." So let's do this. I loved what you said, Dr. Sonia, about where you take different things depending on where you are. So HP is prevention. I love, like I said, using chiropractic in that beginning. And the Lauracetin, that's where I use the beginning. What do you do? Like, would you guys add anything to those two areas? And then what do you do when you're full on in it? Like your massive symptoms.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell people to do is up their vitamin D, because our vitamin D levels drop in the winter months. We just don't have the same sun exposure. And when our vitamin D drops, so does our immunity. So I make sure that people are taking healthy doses of vitamin D, myself included, and that really does help to ward off the flu. And if you do get like the sniffly runny nose, it doesn't seem to last nearly as long as it would have if your vitamin D was lower. The other thing that I tell people to do if they feel like a cold coming on is oil of oregano. I love that stuff. If you can take it orally, put it in capsules. That fights off everything. Oregano oil is like antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. You don't need a doctor to get any or the vitamin D or the oregano from, so you can just start taking that. And vitamin C, like up your vitamin C intake at the earliest sign of feeling anything coming on. Those are my go-tos for a healthy immune system. How about you, Dr. Sonia?
Yeah, I agree with all of those. I would add in zinc. Small doses of zinc daily, and also elderberry for kids. I find just giving them some elderberry syrup daily. That's kind of my routine in the morning now. I have their vitamin C powder, I have their elderberry and echinacea that I give them, and I give them their vitamin D. So that's kind of my go-to preventative for them right now and for myself.
Do you have a brand of elderberry, or do you make your own?
I have a brand, Vitanica. I think Tori Hudson is a doctor that actually created that brand, and it's great. It has some echinacea in it, plus some elderberry. I would love to make my own elderberry because there's so many elderberries here, and I know there's tons of recipes online that you can create your own. So if you have the time to do that, I would make your own.
Interesting. Huh. Okay, what about food? What foods other than supplements? What do you guys think? I love the idea around fasting. I think, what was the old saying? Feed a fever, starve a cold. I think you starve everything.
Yeah.
like, you know, you're born with an intelligence inside of you that knows how to fight a cold, knows what to do. And when you remove food out of the equation, that intelligence just magnifies. So I would agree with both you guys about the fasting.
Hey, Dr. Mindy, why don't you explain why fasting will help boost immune system and kick things out faster?
Well, there's a lot of ways we can go with that, but I would say that the two biggest things is that fasting really increases autophagy or autophagy, however you want to pronounce it. And what that is where the cell detoxifies itself. So basically, in a nutshell, the cell repairs itself. So when it doesn't have food anywhere from 13 to 15 hours, usually around the 15-hour mark, it will start to have this autophagy will set in. So it will eat viruses, it will eat bacteria, things that are surrounding it. It starts to destroy that. It also, your gut being such a pivotal part of your immune system, you can really reset any damage that's going on in your gut through fasting. So it doesn't really have to be like a 3-day, 5-day water fast. It could be something as simple as start skipping some meals. Don't make yourself eat when you're not feeling well, which is what intuitively your body typically does anyways. It's already telling you that. So I think that's probably the most important thing is that, you know, anytime if you feel sore throat, if you feel stuffy, if you feel a fever, stop eating.
Except for ginger tea.
Yeah, but Dr. Sonia will drink tea at all hours and temperatures.
Yes.
So
that's true.
Okay, you could have ginger tea. I don't think it raises insulin or blood sugar. I think
in it, so you need the
yeah.
turmeric. So,
Okay. Yeah. So, but I mean, fasting down regulates inflammation. I mean, it's just, I'm in love. I'm so in love with the healing power of the body. We just do not give it enough credit. And, supplements I think are fabulous. I love how HP taps into the inner wisdom. But sometimes when you just crawl into bed and you don't eat and you sleep and you don't eat, your body finally says thank you, and that intelligence can work. So I think it's so important for people to learn to rely on their own inner wisdom.
Yeah. And part of the reason fasting works so well too is most of our immune system is in our gut. So when we actually give our digestive tract a break from digesting food, absorbing nutrients, we're able to allot or allocate that energy elsewhere, which would be fighting the infection or, getting rid of the virus, whatever it may be. And on another note, what about fevers, guys? So if somebody gets spikes of fever, like in kids, is it wise to give them something to bring the fever down?
No, your body's going into that state for a reason, and it needs to get into that state so that it can actually kill the bacteria and the viruses. And I know in a lot of kids, parents with infants, there's a lot of fear around the fever, especially if you don't have the tools. But really, there's signs that you can watch out for. There's things that you can do to cool them down, but you want to have guidance for sure. I mean, if you're like a first-time parent and you're worried, I mean, yes, call the nurse's line, take them to the ER, like whatever you need to do to feel that your child is safe. But innately, the body's doing something for a reason. It's creating that fever for a reason so that it can actually heal. And what I've noticed in kids, as soon as they've had a fever, they've hit some sort of milestone in their growth. So whether it was like they were just learning how to talk and all of a sudden they're like spewing out these sentences after, or they were little and they're crawling and all of a sudden they're walking after a fever. So the body's doing something. It's trying to teach it something. But I know this is a really like touchy zone for a lot of young parents with young kids because it can create fear around because there's fear around seizures, there's fear around so much. So Tylenol is given right away, but I would say wait. There's guidelines where you can wait safely, and talk to your practitioner that you see, talk to your chiro, talk to your naturopath to see what those guidelines are so that you feel safe.
And I'm sure, Dr. Mindy, you would agree, but I've always encouraged our families to bring in their kids at the first sign of a fever and get them adjusted. Upper cervical, it's not going to have the same effect as Tylenol, meaning it's not going to suppress the fever. It's going to allow the body to naturally bring it down so the kid's more comfortable, yet still allowing the body to fight off whatever it's fighting off. What do you think, Dr. Mindy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I as soon as you see that cold come on, I tell our families, bring them in every day. We'll keep adjusting their kids until the cold turns. So like I said, it's my favorite tool because it does allow the inner wisdom to work in the body. It turns on that healing like fasting does. And I love what you said, Dr. Sonia, about the fever. I think it's, again, coming back to this honoring the wisdom of the body. The body raises the temperature for a reason. So when you give your child Tylenol, what you're doing is you're telling the body, I know better than you. I'm going to bring that down. And you've taken away its greatest healing capability. And yet I can tell you as a parent, I totally get how scary it can be. So what I always did with my kids is I set upper limits. I said, okay, if it gets to 103, I'm going to the doctor. Or if it gets to 102, I'm going to do something about it. I also would look for signs like lethargy. If my kids had a fever and they were running around the house and I took their temperature and that fever was 102 and they're hanging out having fun, I'm not going to throw medication at it to bring it down. They look like they're doing pretty well. Lethargy to me is a big major sign that So same thing goes with mucus. Like you give them an antihistamine and to kill mucus. Well, what's the purpose of mucus? Mucus is there to be able to it's a sticky substance that will hold on to viruses and bacteria and get them out. So I would love to redefine these symptoms. Yeah, they're annoying. Yeah, they're scary, but they're so purposeful. And I hope people can understand that.
Yeah. And on top of the lethargy, as long as your kid is still hydrated, they're still having wet diapers if they're an infant, that's the most important thing. As long as they're not dehydrated and then going into and becoming lethargic, I think your kid better than anybody. Just trust that you know what to do for them too, and that their body knows what to do. And that's really why we do have like the ER and things like that, for when situations do escalate and get to a point in which medical intervention needs to be administered.
And if you're nursing, your breast milk will change to accommodate for your child. So just nurse, and nurse. As annoying as it can be, staying up all night and nursing, that is what's going to help your child.
You know what I love about breast milk? It's so incredibly powerful. I used to see anything like a rash, I would rub breast milk on it. If they were like stuffy in the nose, I'm like, oh, let's see what happens when we put breast milk here. It's incredible. In fact, I was so sad because I breastfed both my kids till they were 2. And when I got done breastfeeding, I was like, oh my God, I don't have this as a superpower anymore. No. What am I going to do? So
super store it, right? Put it in the freezer. And
I'm sure they would have loved it. Yeah, but
it'll be a whole new thing, guys.
I know. Well, I know dads that like put it in their coffee and things like that just to get the superpower.
Yeah. So let's talk about during then. We kind of talked about like what on onset. So what are we going to do when you're like full on in, whether it's the flu or the cold? What are some suggestions?
So I recommend taking a break from eating, drink if you're thirsty, but let your body reset. And then the other thing that I always recommend is get a really good bone broth. All of the minerals and the vitamins and the nutrients and the collagen, and that's really going to boost your immune system and kick it out. So not, chicken noodle soup from a can. That's not going to kick out any infection or flu or illness or cold. But having a really good bone broth, either, kettle and fire if you want to buy one or make your own, that's what I tell people to do right from like when things set in. How about you guys?
Yeah, same. And I love this herb called Andrographis. There's a company called MediHerb that has Andrographis and Echinacea in it, and that's my go-to right away.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never heard that.
Sorry,
I feel like there's
my husband's
I feel like there's
dog out of my office. He's not moving.
Yeah, for me, it depends on if it's your child or if it's you. So I think if it's you, the first thing you've got to do, and Sonia, you're the one that should be saying this, is self-care. You need to cancel all your appointments. You need to not push on through. You need to stay home from work. You need self-care. And if you do that when you have a fever or you're feeling really fluish, if you take that opportunity, you might have what could have been a 3-week flu may, only be a 2-day flu. So that's what I would say from an adult standpoint. From a kid standpoint, I used to bundle my kids up. Like I would put them when they had a fever, I would put like a hoodie sweatshirt on. You put the hood over their head. Like I would try to assist the body. And then I would take washcloths across their cold washcloth across their forehead to kind of keep them a little bit more comfortable. But I would see what I could do to help the body along to assist it.
There's the sock treatment too. Did you ever do that?
Oh no, I haven't. I've heard of it though.
Yeah, you put really cold socks on their feet, and then you put warm wool socks over top, and it takes all the congestion from the head into the feet. So you do that overnight. Some kids will fight it, especially when they're a little bit older, but when they're young, it's really easy to do, and it works like magic every time.
Yeah. And this could be a whole nother episode. The other thing that I really wanted to have the right verbiage for my children is I didn't want them to think that the power of healing happened anywhere other than in their own body. And so I would say things like, just lay on the couch, watch TV. The doctor inside of you is on it. The doctor inside of you has got that handled. Because I think what happens is that we get so conditioned to reach for whether it's a supplement or a Tylenol, and we start to train our kids with the flu season and the colds to be an outside-in thinker around health. And everything we're talking about is inside-out health. Your body's got it handled. Let's teach our children that. So I really worked on my verbiage. Instead of, oh, you have a symptom? Let me give you some Tylenol. Well, I had heard years before I had kids was, well, they'll do that when they have the flu. But now what happens when they have troubles when they're a teenager or when they're adult? Are they already going to be pre-programmed to reach for that, something outside of them to make them better?
Mm-hmm. There's a great book by Dr. Seuss called Inside Your Outside.
Oh.
And it actually describes the body, and it has this whole picture of like white blood cells and red blood cells and what they're doing and then the germs. So I bring that page out all the time when they're sick to kind of show them, like, look, we're feeding the white blood cells right now. So we have to do these things in order to help these soldiers do what they're supposed to do. So yeah, I think that's key, because it's not only when they're sick, it's like you said, it's like everything. Are we going to be looking at our external circumstances to help us, or are we going to be trusting our own intuition, like Dr. Caitlin said with the moms, like when you already know what to do? So how do we train ourselves from the beginning to train that intuition and to listen to our bodies?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think hopefully we gave people a lot of information. I think, again, the takeaway I would want people, and maybe we could each go around and say our takeaway, because what I'd really want people to walk away from this is understanding how much control they have over this, how much power your body is already pre-programmed with. And it doesn't need the flu shot. It doesn't need you to reach for the medication. It just needs you to trust it and honor it and to create a tool set around it. So that's my big recommendation to people. What about you, Dr. Caitlin?
Yeah, self-care beforehand is the big thing. Prevention is key. It's so much easier to prevent something than it is trying to kick it out once you already have it. And, by reducing your sugar load, especially in the fall, with the pumpkin lattes and all these other things coming out, it's just sugar, 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 sugar. So just be mindful of, the sugar content that you're eating, that your kids are eating. And then, one of the things, if you guys are interested, I'm personally going to look into HP for myself. If that's something you guys are interested in, message us on Facebook and we'll see how we can either connect you with somebody that does it, or if it's something that we ourselves can do. We'll know more about that in the next week or so. So reach out if that's something you guys are interested in possibly providing for yourself and your families.
Yeah,
we might be able to put some links too in the show notes. I was thinking about that, but yeah, go ahead, Dr. Sonia. I didn't mean to take it away from you.
I was just going to reiterate what both of you said. So I agree with both of you guys, the self-care beforehand and then also during. If you are to get the flu or the cold, just be gracious to yourself and don't be afraid of the symptoms. Don't be afraid that it's going to slow you down and ruin your week or ruin your plans or your plan to go to Starbucks and get a pumpkin latte. Just listen to your body. It knows what to do and it's doing its job. So that would be my big takeaway. And
awesome.
Like the kids are always telling you, I'm not hungry. I just want to sleep. And
right.
We have our porridge in our hand, trying to stuff it down their face.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope this is helpful. As always, we want to create discussions on our Facebook group around it. This was a really important topic. I'm so happy we got it out. And Dr. Caitlin, surely you have our parting words of subscribe. You do it so well.
You guys might have this down now too.
No, you do it.
Subscribe to our iTunes channel, download the episodes, share them out. Find us on Facebook. We do have a public figure page, but we also have a closed group. So come share, let us know what you guys think, and we look forward to hearing more from you guys in the future. Stay healthy.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, guys.